Over nearly 3,000 years, the ancient Egyptians developed a complex society full of strange beliefs and bizarre customs, and they designed and built monumental buildings and structures that have astounded later generations. From mummies and other strange burial customs to the Great Pyramids of Giza, there is a mountain of evidence that offers a window into ancient Egyptian life. Stay tuned to number 1 to find out what modern technology they created that we still use today. Number 10. Pyramids and tombs. Perhaps one of the most well-known and lasting aspects of ancient Egyptian culture is their outstanding and often extravagant burial places. When you think of ancient Egypt, you'll likely picture the Great Pyramid of Giza, believed by some to be the resting place of the Pharaoh Khufu and built in the 3rd millennium BCE. It stood as the tallest man-made object in the world until the Lincoln Cathedral was built in 1300 CE. It consists of around 2.3 million blocks, expertly put together using advanced masonry, mathematical, and architectural skills. Although most agree that they are tombs, some have suggested that they are stone computers, astronomical observatories, and some have even suggested that they are alien landing sites. Reserved for the royals and elites of society, there are over 100 known pyramids dotted around Egypt, but recent investigations using telescopes in space have found what could be hundreds more. Yet, pyramids weren't the only burial structures used. At some point, the royals preferred to be buried in underground tombs, in places like the Valley of Kings or the Valley of the Monkey, and these weren't any less extravagant than the pyramids. Even today, these burial places are slowly giving up their secrets with new secret chambers and previously unknown burial complexes being unearthed all the time. I think it's quite fair to say that the houses of the dead will keep us enthralled for decades, if not centuries to come. Number 9. Magic. Magic played a fundamental role in ancient Egyptian life and was closely tied to their religious beliefs, daily life, and was especially crucial for their afterlife. From incarnations to spells that guided the dead in the afterlife, magic was everywhere in ancient Egypt. Their belief in magic is intertwined in both Egyptian life and death. Thankfully, there is a mountain of archaeological evidence supporting their belief in and practice of magic. Egyptologists can study the Book of the Dead, the Book of the Living, sarcophagi, temples, tombs, amulets, and various other objects. Their beliefs in the importance of magic was closely related to the Egyptian creation story in which the god Ra created the world by magically uttering the word. So, words have a lot of power in Egypt, and you can bet that the magicians who used magic were seen as incredibly powerful people. Number 8. The Book of the Dead. The Book of the Dead, also known as the spells for going forth by day, consists of around 200 spells, many of which were referenced in earlier books, like the Pyramid texts and the Coffin texts. Its purpose was to provide instructions and access to specific magic that would assist a deceased person's journey to and existence within the afterlife. As you'll come to see, the death and the afterlife were such an important aspect of Egyptian life that many would spend their entire lives preparing for it, and the Book of the Dead was no different. Commissioned by people in preparation for their own funeral, the Egyptian scribes produced books to order, and from the evidence available, it's clear that they were expensive to buy and were likely reserved for just the elite, just like the elaborate tombs and other grave goods. Number 7. Hieroglyphics. Adorning the walls of palaces, monuments, and graves, hieroglyphics were another well-known aspect of ancient Egyptian life. Intertwined with religious beliefs, like with all aspects of ancient Egyptian life, the gods even played a role in the creation of their writing system. Thoth, the god of learning and wisdom, was believed to be the first to recognize that speech could be conveyed through writing. Over the course of ancient Egypt's history, its writing style developed and changed, and the Old, Middle, and Late Egyptian styles were all written in hieroglyphics. One of the most famous archaeological discoveries from Egypt is the Rosetta, a stone tablet engraved with 3 scripts: hieroglyph, Demotic, and Greek. Its discovery was enormously important in understanding the development and differences of various Egyptian scripts. Number 6. Funerary figurines. Today, a lot of people still like to bury personal trinkets with their deceased loved ones, but grave goods in ancient Egypt were on a completely different level. In addition to the priceless art, sculptures, and everyday instruments were loads of little figurines. They were known as funerary figurines. These were the servants of the afterlife, as one of the most important aspects of tomb furnishings, the shabti, was a miniature mummy figurine finely crafted from wood, stone, pottery, or various other materials. They ultimately became regarded as taking the owner's place in carrying out manual labor jobs in the afterlife. The ancient Egyptians believed that the afterlife was similar to living life, and they didn't want to risk the gods making them continue to do agricultural tasks in the afterlife. So what better way to get around this than by creating those miniature figurines? Over the course of their use, they gained replica agricultural tools like grain baskets, hoes, and other instruments. They became so popular and crucial for the afterlife that by the first millennia BCE, they were mass-produced in the thousands. As you'll see, life was so intertwined with death that it became one of the most important aspects of life. Number 5. Royal inbreeding. Most people are aware that inbreeding existed to some extent in the ancient Egyptians' royal family. In fact, check out our video on inbreeding in royal families so that you can see just how extensive this was. The genetic data is too exiguous to allow any completely corroborated statements to be made, but marriages between close relatives were likely carried out in the case of individual royal families for only a few generations. It appears that the longest period a single family was able to keep ruling through incestuous and semi-incestuous relationships were the Thebans of the 18th dynasty, who managed to do it for a space of 2.5 centuries. Even if it wasn't as commonplace as some might believe, we have still managed to find evidence for it in some royal burials. Recent evidence has suggested that King Tutankhamun, the famous boy pharaoh, was the son of an incestuous relationship between siblings, and he is well known for his frail body. But it wasn't just in the real world that siblings had incestuous relationships. Like with all things in ancient Egyptian life, they mirror the actions of the gods, and they frequently married their siblings, like Shu and Tefnut, or Isis and Osiris. Number 4. Ancient inventors. With over 3,000 years of cultural developments, it is perhaps not surprising that the ancient Egyptians were responsible for numerous inventions throughout this period. From musical instruments, makeup, to boats with sails, flowing with them. But it wasn't just technological inventions that enabled them to build massive pyramids or elaborate tombs. They also utilized astronomical calculations and their deep understanding of the night sky to create impressive archaeoastronomical sites, places that are linked to the stars. They also had a pretty good understanding of medicine. Well, as good as could be expected for the time. In fact, their medical practices and knowledge are considered highly advanced for their time. For example, they carried out non-invasive surgery, set bones, and much more. It's all worth pointing out that not every invention led to an elaborate artifact, and instead, some inventions simply reduced costs and increased the opportunities and possibilities for large-scale production. Like with linen, for example. Love that Egyptian cotton. Nevertheless, one thing we can say for sure, the Egyptians have had some very intelligent and forward-thinking people living amongst them. Number 3. Sacred cats. Another well-known fact about ancient Egyptians is their love for cats, and it's believed that the Egyptians were the first people to domesticate the cat as a popular pet. Known as MAU, which is likely pronounced meow, they were considered sacred animals and praised for their effectiveness in killing snakes and controlling vermin. There is a recorded evidence for their prominence in Egyptian religion dating back to the late 4th millennia BCE, and by the 1st millennia BCE there was even a cat cult. They were widely kept as pets and were even mummified. Yes, that's right, they mummified their cats. Why, I hear you asking? Well, once they were mummified, they were given as offerings to the goddess Bastet, who is noted for her feline appearance in some sculptures and images. Some people have gone as far as to suggest that priests might have bred cats specifically to give as offerings. Moreover, Archaeological investigations suggest that cats and even dogs were mummified with great care, and, like humans, they were often buried with the things that they would need in life. Which, can have been much for a cat. Nevertheless, they played such an important role in Egyptian belief and daily life that some academics have dedicated decades of their lives to unearthing the feline secrets of ancient Egypt. Number 2. The eternal body, mummification. This next one is the other most well-known fact about ancient Egypt, mummification. But did you know that many Egyptologists believed that mummification first developed out of a desire to replicate the natural burial conditions caused by the desert? Long before ancient Egypt became the power it was, it's believed people became aware of how hot, dry sand would absorb all of the liquid from a buried body and leave a dried, scary human resemblance. Similar in appearance to a living person with hair and nails and skin, we don't know exactly when, but at some point they started associating the preservation of the dead body with the afterlife. And as their culture developed, the corpse ultimately became an important aspect of the ancient Egyptian belief. Therefore, it was crucially important that the body did not decay. Sometimes things would go wrong. Sometimes someone might lose a toe or a finger, but it didn't matter too much because the embalmer would just replace it with a wooden spare part, though it's unlikely they voiced this at the time. Nevertheless, they did strive to improve and perfect their techniques. Not that it mattered much in the long run, though, because by 1300 CE, it's rumored that some people used to ground mummies into powder, thinking it was a cure for illness. Number 1. Commercial bakeries. Unlike some of the other well-known facts on this list, you likely didn't know that ancient Egypt had the first commercial bakeries. In many ways, this was a gift of the Nile River because the salt-free irrigation allowed for wheat to thrive. But they weren't the first people to commercialize crop industries in inventive ways that still exist today. In Mesopotamia, the people utilized their barley to brew beer. And by the late 3rd millennium BCE, they had public beer houses. The Egyptians were very clever and capitalized on this earlier invention, and then by 2000 BCE, there were combined bakeries and breweries making bread and beer. And let's face it, who doesn't like bread and beer? What do you think about the amazing ancient Egyptians? Tell us what you think in the comments below. Do you know some facts that should have been included on this list? Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more interesting stuff. Later.